Salawam. This is the brother Samaria, the Pasadena camp. I want to first and foremost give all honor, glory, and praise unto our Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Okay, Yahweh, who the world ignorantly calls Jehovah, and Yahweh. His true name in the Hebrew is Yahweh, meaning He exists, okay, or He is. Ba'ashem, in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. Yah meaning He, Yahweh Shai, delivered. Ba'ashem Rakakwadash, the Holy Spirit. Okay, and double honors to my apostles and elders of the great millstone who taught us His truth. All right, who are the Gentiles and who are the Israelite foreigners? It's a very controversial topic that gets addressed all the time. Now, the misconception of the Gentiles, okay, comes about because, you know, you have a lot of Christians out there that don't understand, you know, when you have certain words like Gentiles or the word, I mean, Salaki, the world, all right, and, you know, Satan, and amongst other words, all right, some of these words, you know, have more than one meaning, okay? And this is from the Common English Dictionary of that word Gentile. And it says belonging to or characteristic of non-Jewish peoples. And this is from the Latin gentilis, which means foreigner. Okay, and this is key to understanding, you know, who the Gentiles are as these Israelite foreigners. Okay. Now, the Israelites, okay, pursuant to the curses of Deuteronomy 28, were dispersed, okay, scattered amongst these other nations. Okay. And there's a lot of misconceptions of what, you know, Yahweh Shai and the apostles taught concerning the Gentiles. Okay, which were Israelite foreigners. They look like these other nations. Okay. You know, these Christians will come with that plantation Christianity and try to tell you that, you know, the natural Gentiles of these other nations could be saved. Which we know these Gentiles isn't talking about the natural nations. It's talking about the Israelite foreigners that dwell in these other nations that just happen to look like these other nations. Okay? But pursuing to, you know, the seed line, they go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right? You see that word Gentile could either refer to, you know, the other nations, or it could refer to the Israelite foreigners. Okay, and in this sense, this is speaking about the Israelite foreigners. Okay, let's get right in. This is 1 Peter 1:1. It says, Peter, an apostle of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. All right, and that word, first let's get strangers.
Strong's G 3927. Parepidemas. Parepidemas.
All right. Parepidemas. It says one who comes from a foreign country into a city or land to reside there by the side of natives, but the natives, a stranger, sojourning in a strange place, a foreigner. Okay, so how did they become strangers? It happened, okay, under the curses. All right, you had the account of the Syrophoenician Canaanite woman in Mark 7 and Matthew 15, all right, who came to Yahweh Shai, but she was an actual Israelite foreigner, not an actual Syrophoenician. All right, she was born in that land, was being called a Canaanite, but she was an Israelite foreigner. Okay, just like there were many Israelites that came to Jerusalem, all right, the Jews. And they were keeping the law to the best of their ability, but they were scattered amongst these other nations. They were being called by these other nations, you see? But they knew they were Israelites. Okay, they were keeping the feast, the feast days. They were keeping the high holy days, the commandments, the laws, the statutes and commandments to the best of their ability. And the languages that they were speaking, okay, were the languages of these other nations that they were scattered amongst. Okay, now let's get that word for scattered. The diaspora says a scattering, a dispersion of the Israelites scattered among foreign nations. You see? And we know this came about, okay, through prophecy. Deuteronomy 28. Okay? You have Israelites amongst the four corners of the world. So they're everywhere, looking like these other nations. Okay? This is why the Apostle Paul was traveling to these different regions, because there were Israelites amongst these regions. And they needed to hear this gospel, the good news, okay? Because a lot of them were going off. A lot of them were in that Gentile state of mind. They had no knowledge of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Okay, they didn't have the knowledge of these scriptures. So they had to be brought back to the fold. Okay, that was the purpose of them, the apostles going out to teach them. Okay, to bring them back to the fold, to bid them back to the marriage. Okay, because you had an election amongst the Israelite foreigners that made up the church. Okay, they had to be brought back to the fold to make that complete, which is the same thing we're doing today when we go out and preach this word. Okay, and the Lord back then was building up the tabernacle of David, just like we're trying to build up and the Israelite foreigners were a part of that. It's James 1:1. It says, James, a servant of the Most High and of the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. Okay, and you have the same word there, diaspora, meaning a scattered, dispersion. They were scattered. Okay. You see, they were scattered amongst the nations. They were lost, and the Lord had to pay the way to bring them back. Why they were being called strangers? Because they didn't know they were Israelites. Okay, they had no clue. They didn't know the law. They weren't keeping it. All right, they fell away from their heritage. And this is why the apostles, set out to teach them. Because we'll get this in Hosea 1 verse 10. It says, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in that place it was said unto them, ye are not my people. There it shall be said unto them, you are the sons of the living power. So, pursuant to Jeremiah, and we can grab this too in Jeremiah to prove the point that we fell off. Okay, we were discontinued from our heritage. Jeremiah 17:4 says, and thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. You see? Okay, and back when Paul came on the scene, all right, which was around 60 or 50 AD, okay, he was speaking to the Ephesians, which were Israelites, okay, in the land of Ephesus, Greece. And they were upholding the customs of the Greeks. All right? And they didn't know that they were Israelites, why they were calling themselves Ephesians. Let's go to Ephesians 2:12. Okay, so Paul, this is the letter from Paul to the Ephesians, okay? Again, Israelite foreigners. Not to the entire world. Not to all nations, okay? He was speaking to the Israelites in Ephesus, Greece, that were calling themselves Ephesians, okay? And it says, this is Ephesians 2:12, that at that time you were without a Mashiach Yahushai, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope, and without the Most High in the world. You see? They were worshiping the customs of the Greeks. Going back to Alexander. Alexander the Greek, right? He conquered our people. And later you had Ptolemy. And, his line, which came and conquered our people, and forced us into worshiping their customs. All right, because Ptolemy, he brought out many edicts. An edict is like a commandment or a speech. And one of those edicts, he told our people we weren't allowed to circumcise our children anymore. Okay? Just like Antiochus Epiphanes came on the scene. And he basically did the same thing. Okay, after Alexander's empire fell, he was one of the main ones that came and burned down the temple. Okay, and what happened then? He was forcing Israel to stop keeping the law. And anyone that was found keeping the law was put to death. Okay, they burned the books. Okay, you even had certain Israelites that were going along with it. All right, just like today, you got these wicked ass people amongst our nation siding with this fucking devil, man. Telling our people to get the jab. Our people buying into all the incentives that Esau is throwing out there, telling these people to get the jab for a fucking a Popeye's fucking biscuit, man. Same thing. No new thing under the sun. All right. And these same Israelites that fell away, they were teaching their children and their grandchildren, their descendants, that they were heathens. Okay. And teaching them that they were Greeks. So pursuant to Jeremiah 17:4, they fell away from the heritage. Okay. And Paul, he was telling these Israelites, he was telling them they were without Yahushai because they were ignorant to the fact that they were Israelites and they were supposed to uphold the laws, statutes, and commandments. You see? And the purpose of him going out, the purpose of him, going out by the graces of Yahweh Bashem Yashai, he was sent to them to help bring them back to their nationality. Bringing them back to the fold, okay? Which again is what we're doing today. While we're out on the streets, bidding our people to come back to their nationality as Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as the true biblical Israelites. it says, verse 12, that at that time you were without a Mashiach, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope and without the Most High in the world. Okay, and that promise it only goes to the Israelites. Okay, the covenants of what? The agreements which the Lord gave to our nation, which is to follow the law, statutes, and commandments. All right, and that word covenant is another word for an agreement. See? You have, they like to call us a hate group. All right, because, they like to call us racist. Well, we are. Okay, what does it mean to be racist? To be superior over another nation of people? Well, we are. The scriptures say that. This is 1 Peter 2:9. It says, "But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness and into his marvelous light." Who is this to? The Israelites, okay? Okay, you see, he brought us out of the darkness, all right? Out of the confusion that we were Americans or blacks, or Native Americans, all these other bywords they got out, But we're the Israelites, okay? And the Most High called us out of that darkness, and you other nations are mad, man. This is Deuteronomy 7:6. It says, "For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy power. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people among him unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth." You see that? The Most High, we just read in 1 Peter, all right? A peculiar people, a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and a holy nation. Okay, and that's only to the nation of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. This is why, you have to know the history. And you have to understand, you got to break words down and see the meaning. Really, you have to have the spirit. Okay? Which, if you're any other nation outside of the nation of Israel, you're not going to get it. Because this understanding isn't given to you. Again, it's only given to the nation of Israel. All right? Romans 9. Where are we at? Slakia. Romans 9, Slakia, verse 4. It says, "Who are the Israelites to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the servants of the Most High and the promises?" Okay. So there it is. To whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants. All right. Let's go to John 4:22. It says, "You worship, you know not what. We know what we worship. For salvation is of the Jews. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for the Father seeketh such to worship him." And here we are today. Okay? It says, the Most High is the Spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in the Spirit and truth. Okay, our elders, beginning with the apostles on down, had been out here, okay, doing the work, bidding our people back to the marriage, okay? Yahweh Shai is coming to deliver an election, which, Lord willing, we're a part of, okay, amongst the 12 tribes of Israel, which consists of you Negroes, Latinos, West Indians, Haitians, Dominicans, Native and Seminole Indians. Okay? And he's gonna give us, all right, the promise. Okay? Rulership over these nations. Because watch this. You see, these other nations, they've tried to include themselves. They've tried to inject themselves into this thing of ours. Yeah, Ezra 4. It's like Ezra 4:1. It says, now when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the children of the captivity builded the temple unto the Lord power of Israel, they came to Zerubbabel and to the chief of the fathers and said unto them, let us build with you, for we seek your power as ye do. And we do sacrifice unto him since the days of Esarhaddon, king of Assur, which brought us up hither. But Zerubbabel and Jeshua and the rest of the chief of the fathers of Israel said unto them, ye have nothing to do with us to build a house unto our power. Okay, but we ourselves together will build unto the Lord power of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, had commanded us. So even then they were trying to, include themselves in our promise, which they have no part in. Okay? And they're still here trying to do that, all right? Vocab alone, It's Matthew 10:5. It says, these 12 Yahweh Shai sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Now, who can receive Yahweh Shai? This is Matthew 15:24, Salakia. It says, but ye answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So there it is. Okay? Unless you are a direct descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, this does not apply to you. All right, and with that, okay, I'm gonna close it out with this. Shalom. Lord's will, I start another lesson as a part 2, okay, to expound further on salvation is only for Israel.